Hey guys, welcome back to a new video. My name's Jason and thanks for watching. We're going to talk about this new product here. This is the Bluetti EB70 portable power station. Well, what's special about this power station is it's not a lithium ion based portable power station. This is lithium iron phosphate. Now, if you've seen any of the other videos that we've talked about, me and Jeff love lithium iron phosphate. There's just so many more cycles that you get out of those batteries. You know, the Jackery 500, limited to 500 cycles. Well, this lithium iron phosphate batteries, they last up to 2,500 cycles. And well, have you ever heard of one of those things called a Tesla fire? Or maybe someone that smashed a lithium ion battery? Well, they kind of blow up and they burn until they're out of energy. Well, lithium iron phosphate batteries do not have a risk of fire. Yeah, it weighs a little bit more, and it does have a few little quirks, but I have a few tricks that I want to show you. Some of the other people didn't talk about these in the videos. Anyway, we're going to go through all the quirks, all the features. We're going to show you the performance, show you how it tested up against these 12-volt compressor fridges. And yes, I tested it against 8 of my 12-volt compressor fridges. We have the EB70 portable power station we're going to be talking about. And we also have Bluetti's SP200 200-watt solar panel we're going to be talking about. Does it put out 200 watts on this thing? Well, we're going to find out because no one else has tested that. They haven't put it in their videos. They say what it can do. They said do 200 watts, but does it do 200 watts on the EB70? Stay tuned and we'll find out, guys. Let's just dive right into it. Thanks for watching. Okay guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed that intro. Really want to hit home that some of the other reviews haven't talked about what's actually in this. This is a lithium iron phosphate battery. You know, there's some really good perks to these batteries. One of the things being there's no fire risk, right? Lithium ion batteries have an extreme fire risk if they're over discharged, short circuited, or charged incorrectly. Not everything is rainbows and cookies with lithium iron phosphate batteries. It's going to weigh more. There's one little quirk that, you know, they cannot be charged below freezing. So if it's 32 degrees Fahrenheit, the BMS in this will turn off the charging capability. You can still discharge it, but the battery has to warm up. It will only be able to charge once it's above freezing again. Overall, there's a lot more better things about lithium iron phosphate than there are bad things. Okay guys, just wanted to quickly show you what came inside the box. Of course, you get the power station. You get a 200-watt AC to DC charger. You get a 12-volt socket charger so you can charge it in the car. And you get the MC4 charging cable so you can charge it using a solar panel. It also comes with the owner's manual. It's short and sweet, but there are a few little things in there that are great to know, so I would suggest reading it. So this power station is very similar to other things on the market. I didn't want to talk about all these features because a lot of them are the same, but there's two things that really stick out about this. First off, it has a regulated 12-volt output, and it's regulated at 13.2 volts. Excellent voltage for running gadgets and things like that. So I definitely like that feature. The other thing that's awesome about it is it has two 100-watt power delivery ports. So if you want to charge your MacBook, plug it into this one. Pull a full 100 watts out of it, charge your MacBook up super quick. Well, at the same time, you can charge up another power station using USB-C. So it's just pretty awesome that it has both, because a lot of power stations only have one that's 60 watts. So you can get two 100 simultaneous power delivery ports that work great. So those are just a few little perks that I really liked about this. Let's go ahead and dive into the actual capacity testing, solar testing, testing the inverter, things like that. And I'll tell you what worked and what didn't. Let's just get started. So I just started the discharge testing for the EB70. See, I'm pulling 108 watts. going through this battery discharger here. When you pull about 8 amps, the voltage does sag a bit, so we're sitting at 12.7 volts. You can see here we're pulling a little over 100 watts. Let's go ahead and see how long the test will run and how many watt hours we pull. Okay, so the battery is empty. See, it's showing the charge icon there, 0%. Let's go ahead and see the results. Okay, so after the test here, it pulled 48 amp hours or 616 watt hours. I did run the test for about 7.5 hours at 100 watts. And then for the last hour or so, I ran it at 1 amp just to drain the battery all the way down. So it ran for a total of 8 hours, 39 minutes, but I'm pretty happy with the 616 watt hours at 100 watts draw. Okay, it looks like we're coming to the end of the AC capacity test using the inverter. You can see the battery's completely discharged here, and I've been pulling 50 watts for a total of 510 watt hours. So let's go ahead and see how long the test has been running. The test has been running for 9 hours and 15 minutes. Let's go ahead and see if we can run this a little bit longer, see if we can get a little bit more power. Okay, so it just shut off. The AC output just was disabled, completely discharged. I was actually surprised. You can see from that time lapse that it did go a little bit longer than I thought it would. So 580 watt hours is what we got out of the AC output. If you're going to be running something a long time, try to have it on a DC appliance. If you have to use the AC, that's fine. It does get pretty good power, 580 watt hours. Many of these batteries don't put out the exact rated output because of efficiency losses. I kind of wish they were a little bit more honest about that, but it's just what you get. Okay, so I have the Bluetti SP200 200 watt solar panel out here. I'm facing south in a very good sunny day. What's awesome about the Bluetti SP200 is that it comes with this really long 12 gauge cable. Why that's important is you do not want the EB70 in the sun while you're charging it. You want the power station in the shade, solar panel in the sun. Let's go ahead and give this a test. What we're gonna do is go ahead and plug it in. We're gonna see what wattage we get on the EB70. Okay, so before I jump in on the SP200 testing results with the EB70, just wanted to look at some of the technical details. So this is a 200 watt solar panel. Voltage max power is 20 volts. And the current max power is 10 amps. So you times 20 times 10 gives you 200 watts. Now there's an interesting thing that no one really says about the EB70 is it's limited at 8 amps input on the MPPT solar charge controller. Now if you use the SP200 on a larger battery pack from Bluetti, it's fine, but the EB70 is limited at 8 amps. I'm not sure why they did that limitation. So if you do 20 volts times 8 amps, you only get 160 watts max. You could only ever get 160 watts max on this panel. And then you have the efficiency losses of the solar charge controller, maybe some clouds in the sky, things like that. So this is still a great panel, but it's just not perfect for the EB70. We'll just see what results we get. We're not going to be getting crazy power out of this, at least not the 200 watts, because you're only going to get 20 times 8. Let's go ahead and see what happens. Okay, I'm currently getting 123 watts. Definitely more than a 100 watt solar panel would. A 100 solar panel would be pulling about 85 to 90 watts right now. So 123 is definitely good. I'd like to see a little closer to 150. So I decided to orient the cells in a flatter area because it's midday near summer solstice, so flatter is probably going to be a little bit more efficient. Let's go ahead and see how much more power I get having them like this. Okay, I'm getting 130 watts, 140, sweet. Wow, that's pretty good. 142. It's pretty decent. Well, that's the most I've ever seen out of this, 142 watts. Okay, so look at their power supply to charge the EB70. They completely knew this, right? 25 volts, 8 amps. That's 200 watts. When I plug this charger in, I get a full 200 watts. So what they really needed to do, if you wanted to have a solar panel completely designed for this unit, it needs to be putting out 25 watts and 8 amps. Okay guys, that's about does it for the real world solar testing. A lot of the other reviews online were missing actual solar results. Maybe that's because they weren't getting a full 200 watts and they didn't want to look into why, or they thought they had a broken panel. It's definitely not a fault of the SP200. This is a great panel, 200 watt sun power cells. The problem is the design flaw of the EB70. It can take 8 amps or it can take 28 volts. That's not enough to parallel two 100 watt solar panels, and it's not enough to series two 100 solar panels either. So it's kind of in a weird place. Either make it so it can series panels or make it so it can take two 100 watt panels in parallel. Don't go throwing out, hey, it can take 200 watts, but hey, we're not going to provide a solar panel that can do it. Okay guys, I'm just curious now. I decided to pull out my two 100 Rockpals solar panels, so 100 watts in parallel. Does this put out more power than the Bluetti 200 watt solar panel? Well, let's see. Same conditions, same day, just about 20 minutes later. I have both of them paralleled together. Let's take a look. So with both Rockpals plugged in parallel, so two 100 watt solar panels in parallel, getting 144 watts. Okay, I'm getting 147 watts using the two Rockpals solar panels, 146. Well, that's interesting. Not sure exactly what's happening there, but I am getting a little bit more power out of these two Rockpals in parallel. So does that save you money if you just buy two cheaper 100 watt solar panels versus the $500 SP200? Guess that's your decision, but you've seen my results today. Take them with a grain of salt. Could be a little bit better in your area, could be a little bit worse. But hey, pretty cool results, pretty interesting. Let's go ahead and move on to other parts of the test. I wanted to briefly talk about charging the EB70 using this large wall AC to DC adapter. Let's go ahead and turn it on. Right when you plug it in, you can hear it turn on. There's actually a cooling fan that runs 100% of the time whenever it's plugged into the wall. That fan actually pulls about 5.3 watts, and so I kind of see that as a waste of power. I wish they would have done a temperature regulated fan so you didn't have to hear this go all the time or waste power, because when it's done charging, the fan still runs. So just make sure that you unplug it if you don't want to waste power. But let's go ahead and plug it in. I'll show you how efficient this charger is. Within a couple seconds of plugging it in, you'll see this light turn red, which means the charger is turned on. You can see it's charging with about 198 watt input, which is great. Remember, this is a 25 volt, 8 amp charger, so it seems like it's almost designed perfectly for the EB70. If you look at the wall, it's pulling 230 watts from the wall, and it's putting 198 watts in, so it's about 86% efficient, which is pretty decent. Using this wall adapter is the fastest way to charge the EB70 out of the box. Let me show you how easy it is to use the 12 volt cigarette plug to charge the EB70 using a 12 volt source. So this would be like if you're in your car or if you have a portable battery that you want to charge it off of, you just go ahead and plug it into the 12 volt socket. Now because the EB70 is limited at 8 amps, you can see it's charging at 13.2 volts at 8 amps, and that gives you around 100 watts. Using the 12 volt method of charging is kind of slow because of the 8 amp limit. Now if you really want to boost the DC to DC charging, what you want to do is you want to get the voltage higher. It's going to charge a lot faster at 25 volts than it is at 12 volts. So what you want to do is you take your DC source and you boost it up. Now I found this guy on YouTube that had an awesome idea. He took a 12 volt to 24 volt converter. So basically it puts 12 volts in and it puts 24 volts out. This is a 10 amp converter, and what I have is I just have it plugging into my Anderson port here, comes in, changes it to 24 volts, and then goes out. And then I just have MC4 adapters on the end. Let's go ahead and plug in the MC4 adapters and see how many watts we can get going into this. Okay, look at this now. We're getting 188 watts into the battery instead of just 100 watts. And that's just because we put more power into the battery by upping the voltage. So by taking 12 volts from a car battery source or another portable battery, converting it up to 24 volts, we're now getting 24 volts 8 amps instead of just 12 volt 8 amps. So if you have this hooked up to your car battery, I would not suggest your 12 volt socket, but if you hook it up to your car battery some way that it can handle 15 amps, maybe even up to 20 amps, plan for that. Your car battery is being charged by your alternator, you're driving down the road, and this is a fast way to charge this up instead of just having to rely on the AC adapter. So pretty cool trick that I saw. I just saw his idea and I just had to share it. I just wanted to take a second to mark the polarity and show you the default polarity for the adapter that comes with the EB70. So the male looking one is negative and the female one is positive. And then when you adapt into these with MC4, they're reversed. So when you connect to the MC4 on the other side, it is reversed. So it is, the male is positive and the female is negative. So you can basically take any way you want to connect to that inverter. I just chose to connect via Anderson power pole. So I briefly wanted to show you the DC to DC converter up close. Two things that you'll want to take note of. Yes, this does get a little bit warm. It didn't get very hot, but it did get warm. I'm wondering if you use this for a long time, if it would get hot. So, you know, give it some test. Make sure it's in an area that has good airflow. You shouldn't have any issues. The other thing, just I want to reiterate, is this input line is going to be 12 volts, 20 amps. So you're not going to want to plug that into a 12 volt socket in your vehicle. You'll blow that fuse instantly. So you want to make sure that you have some good cable right up to the battery. So battery coming in here, and then this wire is going straight out to the EB70. The EB70 is designed for 24 volts, 10 amps, so nothing wrong there. Should be able to handle that power perfectly. Anyway, that's basically everything I want to talk about with this. Let's move on to the AC inverter test. So the EB70 has a 700 watt pure sine wave inverter. We're going to go ahead and give that a test. I have my kilowatt plugged in here. It's showing 111 volts. Well, I looked on the box. This is the 111 volt version. American outlets are 120 volts. So you're going to notice a small drop in voltage just from stock plugging it in the wall. We're going to see if the inverter does drop while using these appliances. Let's go ahead and start testing out. Starting with the food processor, let's go ahead and plug it in the wall, see how it sounds first. This is in the wall. Now we're testing it off the actual inverter. Okay, I'm going to test the blender on the wall first with some water in there so it has some resistance to work with here. Highest setting on the blender. Okay, highest setting on the EB70. Okay, bottle warmer off the EB70. Okay, I have my wife's blow dryer, so let's go ahead and see how this works. It's got 2 speed settings. This is heat off. Okay, that's what it sounds like. Okay, let's go ahead and try it on the EB70 now. I'm going to do warm and I'm going to do low speed fan. Okay, I can handle low speed fan, low heat, but once I go up to high speed fan, overload because it goes up to 850 watts. Boy, this looks like a mess, but I'm just trying to get right to the 700 watt level. Fan level. Let's see if we can get to 600 watts. Okay. This should put it right near 700. Let's see what happens. Wow, 700. Almost exactly. Volts are staying right at 112. 111, so still volts are good. Wow, I don't think I could have randomly chosen appliances to get to 700 even better than that. That was pretty awesome. Yeah, I just held that down for 5 minutes, so it definitely worked. Okay, so I have my load tester plugged into the cigarette lighter. It's regulated at 13.2 volts, so this will run CPAPs, it'll run 12 volt compressor fridges, won't have any issues. Let's go ahead and see if we can get 10 amps out of it. Okay, we're sitting at 9.76 amps. Let's see what happens as we hit 10 amps. 10 amps. Will it cut out? Yep, shorted it. Okay, so we pulled too many amps. Okay, testing the USB-C output charge, the power delivery. This is charging my smaller solar generator. You can see it's charging at 64 watts, so pretty awesome. I can use the bigger EB70 to charge my smaller All Powers battery pack. What's nice is the EB70 takes a lot more watts in, so I can use a large solar panel to charge this and then charge this one with that. Okay, I decided to test out one of the barrel connections. That is a 12 volt 10 amp connection going into my Mi Boxer C4 Smart battery charger. So I'm currently charging an Eneloop a smaller lithium-ion battery, and two 18650s. This smart charger will also charge lithium iron phosphate batteries. I love this smart charger. It's awesome, and it seems to work well with the barrel connector here. I just plugged in my XTAR USB tester. It shows the power and the voltage. It is 5.1 volts on the USB-A ports, and nothing's drawing there, so everything looks good for the USB-A ports. Okay, let's go ahead and test my Iceco Go 20 12-volt compressor fridge. Let's see if it starts it up or if it has issues with the surge amps on the compressor. Okay, let's go ahead and power on the fridge. You'll hear the fan spool up, and the compressor should start. There goes the compressor, 30 watts. 41, it should drop right down to 33 watts. And there you go, the compressor's running on my Iceco Go 20. Let's go ahead and test some other fridges, see if it can start them up, even some bigger fridges. Okay, new fridge, bigger fridge. This is the Iceco VL60 Pro. So let's turn it on. Fan spooling. Yep, compressor started fine on this one. Okay, don't mind my closet here. This is a VL74. This is huge. I'm not going to move it, but I'm going to plug it in and see if it powers up. Let's go ahead and see how it works. Okay, fan spooling. There goes the compressor. Okay, let's go ahead and test the largest fridge I have. This is the New Air 80 quart dual fridge freezer. So let's just see how this turns on. Okay, it started up. Okay, so I briefly want to talk about a few little quirks of the EB70. These aren't game changers. This is really a good unit for running 12-volt compressor fridges, other gadgets, but man, if these quirks weren't here, this thing would be an all-star. Okay, so the first thing is there's no display on button. Like, you can't just turn the display on. You have to either push the light button, push the DC button, or push the AC button. But watch what happens here. Oops, I turned the flashlight on. So it's like, I don't want to do that, and I don't want to disable these, so I'd love to see a display button. Next thing, so if we tap that really quick, let's tap it really quick. Watch how fast it turns off. Okay, I would love to see that stay on longer, right? So the owner's manual does mention, that if you have the DC, if you turn on the DC output, or you turn on the AC output, or the flashlight's on, the display will stay on much longer. So just remember, if you want the display to stay on, you have to have one of these on. Okay, talking about the display, it's a little too simple. How about showing an actual percentage? It's really hard to go off of 20, 40, 60, 80, 100% chunks. I'd love to see a smarter battery estimation tool here. So the other thing that's really frustrating is it doesn't give you like an estimated time remaining when you have a certain load. Like, I've even seen on other Bluetti products where you're running 100 watts, it'll say, oh, there's like 4 hours remaining on the battery. Why didn't they put that on this? Just kind of frustrating with something so good like this. Just the display is just a little too simple. The other thing that might be beneficial too is show the voltages, show the amperage. People like to see that information. So better display would definitely improve this. One thing that I do love about it is how bright it is. Like, you can see this day or night. Excellent brightness. Another little quirk is how easy these buttons turn on and off the outputs. Right there, I just turned off the DC output. There goes my 12-volt compressor fridge. I just bumped it, but my 12-volt compressor fridge is now off, and I didn't know. You know, that is just, I think that's just, if you don't know about how easy these are to turn on and off and how you have to watch them, you got to be very careful. So I would love to see these turn on and off with a long hold. So I hope Bluetti's watching this. I would love for you guys to send this feedback over to your developers, your designers, your engineers, because there's a lot of people complaining about these quirks. If you fix these quirks or just improve on them, people are going to love this thing even more. Like, this has great capacity, everything about it, but man, these little quirks. The last quirk I kind of want to talk about is this charging port here, okay? Why limit it at 8 amps? Like, you can't parallel two 100-watt solar panels, and you can't series two 100-watt solar panels because the voltage is 12 to 28 volts. So you're kind of stuck at this 150 watt, 140 watt, maybe 160 watt limit, even though it's advertised as a 200 watt input. Sure, it'll charge with the AC adapter at 200 watts. It'll charge with a DC 24 volt at 200 watts. But when you have just a regular DC input, so like your outlet at your car, or you're plugging in 100, even a 200 watt solar panel, the SP200, you plug that in, you won't get 200 watts. So I would love to see that different. Other Bluetti products have higher voltages here or higher limits on amperage. So kind of a quirk, 8 amp limit there. It still works great. You can still get 150 watts. It's definitely faster and better charging than a 60 watt limit. Like on the Jackery 500, you're stuck at 60 watts. So 150, you're almost doubling that. So it's good, but it could be better. I'm really nitpicking this because I really want to just be honest with my viewers. I had to find everything that would kind of bug me about this, because if I'm going to recommend this to people, I have to tell them what's wrong with it so they're aware that if I'm recommending this, these are the quirks you're going to have to deal with. But hey, it works great. Let's move on to the conclusion of the video. Well, guys, you made it to the end of the video. Hopefully that was entertaining enough for you guys. I thought I was trying to provide some good content, some interesting details that maybe some other reviewers didn't talk about or even test. So let me give you some final thoughts about the EB70 and 12 volt compressor fridges. So would I recommend it for running a 12 volt compressor fridge? Well, it has more storage than my previous recommendation. I always recommended the Jackery 500 for anybody that was looking for an off-the-shelf purchase to run a fridge while camping, because you could easily charge it and with solar 12 volt input. But man, this just kind of beats the Jackery in many different ways. I mean, it's a little bit bigger, heavier than the Jackery 500, but this has more storage, has way higher solar input, way higher DC input options, AC input options. So this is kind of my new recommendation. If you can put up with the quirks of the display and buttons, man, if they just made those a little bit better, I would totally always recommend this. But you got to be aware of the quirks, and you have to be able to put up with them. Other than that, it worked really well. I was happy with the DC capacity. Sure, the inverter capacity wasn't quite as high. But with the 12 volt compressor fridge, you should easily be able to run that. Like I said earlier in the video, in that intro, if it's really hot outside, probably at least 30 hours. At 85 degrees, fridges pull about double the power as they would at 70 degrees ambient. So you could probably get over 48 hours of runtime without charging on a 12 volt compressor fridge if it was a little bit cooler, 70 degrees ambient average. Talking about the SP200, would I recommend that? The SP200 is definitely built for their larger portable battery stations. I can't really suggest that it's a fit for this. I don't think it was designed for this specifically, because you think they would have made some changes to the input charging here. Now, the quirk of 8 amp limit, it's not a deal breaker, because you can still get way more charge than other power stations on the market. So like I said, the Jackery 500 limits at 60 watts solar. So you can get 150 on this. You could definitely charge this much faster camping. You wouldn't have to have the solar panel out all day. You could just have the solar on it for half the day, and you could easily get through the night and the next day. But always want to keep the battery topped off. But so yeah, I kind of am leaning to recommending this, and maybe not so much to the SP200. It is a great panel, but probably a little bit better for their bigger power stations. You saw when I put two panels in parallel, it put out more power than the SP200. Like I said, it was interesting. If you haven't seen my recent video of me comparing 11 solar panels, most popular solar panels on Amazon, with Jeff, I have that video. There's some really good options in there for price, weight, and wattage that they put out. blown away by some of the prices and the wattage. So check out that video if you haven't seen it. I definitely would recommend purchasing Jeff's or my favorite solar panels I mentioned in the video. But yeah, those solar panels would work great with this as well. But yeah, it would be great to run any 12-volt compressor fridge. Like I said, I tested it with a lot of them. If you do have an issue with Bluetti, they're going to be there to support the product. I remember the guy on YouTube, I saw his video where he plugged in too many panels in series and he fried it. Well, they sent him a new one. I just kind of had to laugh. It was like, yeah, totally fried the board there. But you know, they sent him a new one, so that's good news. Will they do that for everyone? You know, let us know in the comments. Does Bluetti replace anything? I would love for them to, you know, comment in the video, hey, we'll replace a solar panel if it has a problem. We'll replace a battery, portable battery if it has a problem. So I haven't had experience with that. I haven't had to send this back. I don't have issues with it. But anyway, guys, really appreciate you guys sticking to the end of the video. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this content. Really enjoyed testing this out and look forward to using it on my future trips. This will be a battery that I keep and use frequently because it did have really good performance. So stick around for future content, maybe some other content with solar panels and batteries and fridges. You know, that's kind of my jam lately. If you guys liked the video, give me a thumbs up. And you know, if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel. I'd love to have you guys coming back for future videos. Really appreciate you guys, all the support. Love having you guys comment on the videos. You know, throw a comment down below, say hi, say, you know, what you like about the channel, say what you don't like about the channel. But I love to interact with you guys. Anyway, have a great day. We'll talk to you later.